This meeting of the Anderson Township Board of Zoning Appeals is hereby called to order. This board was established pursuant to Section 519.13 of the Ohio Revised Code by the Anderson Township trustees to provide administrative relief to any person or entity adversely affected by the Anderson Township zoning resolution. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Steve Havers.
Here.
Jean Bechtold. Here. Fred Hayes.
Here.
Rick Oversmith.
Here.
Brian Johnson.
Here.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to this meeting of the Anderson Township Board of Zoning Appeals. Please be aware that this meeting is audio and videotaped and may be carried live on television. First, I'll outline our procedures. A summary of the appeal is presented by the staff. Then the appellant will present its case. The board members may then ask questions of the appellant. After that, all persons supporting the appeal will be permitted to testify one at a time after being recognized. When those persons supporting the appeal are finished, those opposed will then be permitted to testify and/or ask questions of the board after being recognized. All persons wishing to testify, whether for or against an appeal, may only do so after being sworn in. When testifying, each person must come forward to the podium after being recognized, speak into the microphone, state their name, address, and any affiliation to the case. All persons testifying will be limited to 4 minutes unless a board member requests additional time, and all testimony is given to the board only. Now, will all persons who may give testimony this evening please stand, raise your right hand, and swear or affirm. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Okay, so any changes, revisions to the agenda for this evening?
No.
None. There are none. Okay. Approval of minutes from the meeting of March 6, 2014.
I did receive a phone call from Rick Oberschmidt to correct a typographical error, but that's the only comment that we've gotten so far.
That's the only one on page 1, paragraph 3. Okay. You revise that with Elif. Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We're going to do this by an aye vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes from March 6, 2014, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And
Abstained since I wasn't here.
we have one abstention. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. All right, then we're going to case number 4-2014 BZA. And will the staff please read their summary?
Sure. The property owners and the applicants in this case are David and Linda Krupp. The address is 8001 Evening Whisper Way, which is zoned A2, single-family residential. The variance is to allow a 15-foot by 25-foot garage addition to encroach into the front yard setback, which is a required distance of 40 feet. Here we have a location map showing the parcel as well as surrounding properties and the existing zoning on all surrounding properties, which is A2. The site is approximately 0.4 acres. You can see that it is a corner lot, so it has frontage both on Evening Whisper Way of 122 feet as well as on Amabel of 96 feet. It is relatively flat and the existing use is a single-family home. Here we can see an aerial of that. This is somewhat outdated. There is other construction going on in the neighborhood at this time. So the applicant is proposing to construct a 15-foot by 25-foot garage addition onto the side of the home, extending into the existing front yard setback of the structure. This would be located towards Evening Whisper Way. Here we have a site plan, Evening Whisper being on our left and Amabel to the bottom there. The home was constructed in 2005, and a deck and patio were also constructed that same year. A certificate for a fence was issued in 2008, and no other zoning information is on file. In addition to this site plan, we do have an existing landscape plan submitted, and the applicant is proposing to relocate this existing landscape area just north of the addition. We've got some surrounding photos of properties, which you can see here, looking east at the subject property, looking north at surrounding conditions from the proposed location of the garage, just under that, south at the proposed location of the garage, as well as that existing landscape area, and then southeast at the proposed location. This request, staff feels, is not substantial. The home has an existing side entry garage that faces Evening Whisper Way, and this proposed garage addition will be located, accessed by that same existing driveway, and will present a similar street view to this existing brick wall and window that you see in this bottom right picture here. The essential character of the neighborhood would not be substantially altered, and adjoining properties would not suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. The applicant did submit this photo showing the adjacent properties along Evening Whisper Way. You can see this far left is the applicant's property, and the adjacent homes all feature 3-car garages. Some in the neighborhood have even up to 4- and 5-car garages. So by creating the additional garage bay, the applicant will be able to store their truck within that space and out of view of neighboring residences. And this would not substantially alter the neighborhood or affect additional adjoining properties in a substantial way. The variance would not affect the delivery of government services. The spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. The proposed location for the garage is the least disruptive to the view from the street. Because of the curve of the road in this area, as well as the angle of the house, the entire facade of the garage will not protrude into that front yard setback in a major way. It'll be a minor intrusion into that setback area. The homes across Evening Whisper Way to the north of this property have the rear of their properties facing this area.
Thank you. Any questions from the board to staff?
I have one, Mr. Chairman. Allison, you showed the other properties. Are they right about at the 40-foot setback, or are they further back?
They're right about that 40-foot setback.
Right at about the
Yes.
40, so we're really looking at a 5-foot difference here.
Approximately.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions to staff? Would the appellant like to make remarks on behalf of their case? Please come to the podium, speak into the microphone, state your name, address, affiliation.
All right. My name is David Krupp. I'm the owner of 8001 Evening Whisper Way. I don't have a whole lot to add. Allison did a nice job of basically explaining what I was trying to do. With meetings with Allison and Paul and with my builder, we were trying to find the least offensive way to put a garage on this lot. And all of the houses in the neighborhood are pretty much maximizing their lots. So there's no way I could put it in the other side yard, in the backyard. And the hardest part about the whole thing is we have 2 front yards, so we have to abide by all those regulations. So I wanted to build the garage, but I also wanted to keep in mind what was going on in the neighborhood. And I think this was the best alternative for what we were trying to accomplish. From this point forward, I obviously have to apply to our HOA and go through the process of that, so it'll be a little while before any construction would begin. I've also been in communication with them since September, trying to fulfill all of their requirements while I was applying here also, so that that will go hopefully fairly smoothly once I have a chance to apply. But I don't want to officially apply until to finding out if it goes through here, because there's no point in doing that if I don't get the appeal here. So that's pretty much all I have to say about what we're trying to accomplish here. Does anybody have any questions that I can answer?
Questions from the board?
So where the garage is going, will it take, are you planning on still having a parking pad? Is pretty much where the parking pad is, where the garage is going?
Yes, the parking pad will remain, and then we'll add some concrete to have an entrance into the garage.
That makes the most sense.
And the garage door will be facing the same way as all the other homes on the street, or most of the other homes on the street.
So you're not planning on adding a parking pad closer to Evening Whisper Way?
No, that's the maximum. We'll maintain that because we need the spot. with college kids coming home and that kind of thing, so.
Sir, I wasn't clear on the status of the HOA work. Are you nearly finished that? Are you in the process of that? Or is it
Well,
just
originally, they
beginning?
wanted me to go through that process before coming here, and then near the deadlines for here, they said it'd make more sense to go through the zoning board first. So I've probably had a series of, I don't know, 25 emails going back, and maybe 30 emails going back and forth, trying to learn more about the restrictive covenants and finding out what is even possible in the neighborhood. So what I've done here is what is reasonably possible. Now, they haven't promised me anything, but there's a lot more I have to do for that process than for this process. I'm pretty well prepared to do that, but I have to jump through this hoop first.
Could you outline what they are in broad brush?
Basically, they want to see most of what you've already seen here with the plot plan, but then they also want detailed sketches, and they probably also want the building plan. And they want to know materials, you know, what is the garage going to be built out of, what it's going to look like, how it will fit into the rest of the house. So there's a lot more detail involved with that. But they're aware of the footprint of this, and you know, they haven't made me any promises, but I still have to go through the process, because they don't have any idea what this is going to look like, and they need to know what it's going to look like. So my next step is to actually get it sketched, and then my builder will actually get it to an architect so we can have the actual plan for the building itself. And it's my goal to make it blend in with the rest of the house and the rest of the neighborhood. Most of the homes in the neighborhood all have differing materials on the outside. Many are a combination of brick and stacked stone. Most of the garages are different than the rest of the home. They're offset by either stacked stone or a different kind of brick or rock. So we're probably going to go with the stacked stone or try to match the brick. But whatever it is, we're trying to blend it in as good, as nicely as possible.
Thank you.
So there are not plans drawn yet for this?
No, there are not. Other than the dimensions, and we figured out, my builder's been out to my house probably 3 or 4 times, trying to figure out how to fit it onto the lot and tie it into the house. There's been a lot of thought process, but we haven't actually sat down and come up with the drawings yet.
But we don't have anything that shows how it ties into the existing driveway, do we? I mean, it's just going to go...
Actually, it will, it doesn't even show the parking pad on this diagram, but there's a parking...
There's another diagram that does show
Oh,
that
does it?
one.
Okay. There'll actually be a more of a concrete driveway coming from the parking pad and the existing driveway to go into the garage, probably at like a 45-degree angle. So the parking pad and the new entryway into the garage and the existing driveway will kind of all tie together, and they'll all be concrete. That's why all that landscaping has to move. Actually, you can see the parking pad right there, yes.
You can see the parking pad on this drawing, it's not on the other one.
Right.
And that parking pad's not going to be enlarged other than to go between
No,
the end of it
Only-
south to the house?
only towards the house, that's correct. The reason we don't have any plans drawn is there's additional expenses involved with that, and I wanted to find out if this was even possible before pursuing that. But a lot of that has been, you know, the wheels are in motion.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a lot easier for us to make a decision if we have the plans and
I
can
gotcha.
see what the impact's going to be too.
I got you.
So that's why you might get a few questions from us on that. Okay, so my question is the pad being removed, the detail on it, restrictive covenants. Then there's a new house under construction to the rear.
Right behind
But
us,
I
yes.
believe you've got an email, you've communicated with them.
Yes.
And have an email that they don't
They're
object
very
to it.
aware of what's going on. I've spoke with them in person. I emailed 20 of my neighbors that were in closest approximation to my lot and got all positive responses, and I think you'll see those are the closest ones to my house, but I sent out 20 just to be thorough. And the next door neighbors, actually, if you happen, Allison, probably whoever took the photographs probably saw this. I have flags that you would normally put out for an invisible fence line throughout the yard for 2 reasons. One, to give me an idea of what it was going to look like, the footprint, but also that raises eyebrows with the neighbors and they ask questions, what's going on? So it was my intent to have everybody aware of what was going on, and they would ask, why do you have the flags in your front yard? And I said, well, we're planning to build a garage, but we're going through a step-by-step process.
So one of the things that strikes me, and I don't have an architectural sense of things, and I don't have a very good imagination, I need it kind of concrete in front of me,
Right.
is looking at it, if you're from the east, is it a solid wall in the back of the garage? Is it a window on the back?
There's probably there was going to be an entry door on the back of the garage, and then a window probably out facing the street, so that it blends in with the rest of the house.
An entry door going out to the backyard, okay.
Correct.
All right.
And then a
I
traditional...
know you talked generically about it, I
Yes,
just have trouble
yes.
envisioning it.
Right, and the rest of the house, many of the homes in that neighborhood are made to look like they're 2 stories, but they're 1 story. They have a high peaked roof on the roof line to make it, and that window is actually a dummy window. So the roof line would have to kind of follow that too. It'd be a high-pitched roof, so that when you look at it from this angle, it looks like it's part of the house. And it shares a wall with the house too. That's probably something that needs to be mentioned. The outside wall of the house will be the inside wall of the garage.
Are you
So there'll
planning
be...
on- I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Are you planning on having an entrance from the garage into the house?
No.
Okay.
Just a traditional garage door on the front, probably an entry door on the back, window on the side.
And the existing window that is shown on the lower right photograph here would remain intact?
That stays there. The edge of the garage comes up within about 6 inches of that. So we're trying to maximize, get as much length, as much space as I could from the rear setback and not interfere with the window.
Any other questions? Good. Thank you, Mr. Kruger. We'll take testimony from persons who support the appeal, and then we will take testimony from those people who are against the appeal.
You do have those emails in your packets for this week. We did not receive any additional phone calls or letters or anything from surrounding property owners.
Good, thank you. Any other further questions? Well, hearing no further comments, and if there is no...
I guess I have a question, a procedural question.
Yeah, please.
Which is whether, and I don't know if this is premature or not, but whether if we close this hearing and in the course of deliberation, some of us, or particularly one of us, it gets concerned about the lack of plans, how do we handle that if we close this hearing as opposed to, keeping it open for submission of plans?
Keeping the public hearing portion of it.
I guess we have options. We can either keep the public hearing of it, portion of it, open, or we can close the public hearing, ask for the plans, and then just deliberate based on the
Right, but you would
testimony
not
we've
be able to
received so
take
far.
additional testimony.
Testimony about the plans unless we keep it open. But I, for one, while I have no problem conceptually with this project,
We don't know.
I really have trouble visualizing roof lines, all those kinds of things that we
Right.
usually look at on a setback type. We don't really have that. This would be unusual for us to do this without without a set of plans. So that would be my one concern. It's just kind of the bureaucratic concern about whether you close it now requesting those or we leave it open. I don't feel strongly either way, but I do think I'd be a lot more comfortable making the decision with a set of plans.
Right.
I don't know if others.
Yeah, I was going to say that, I mean, it's obviously an attractive home, landscaping. I'm sure that when it's all finished, it's going to look like it was original to the house, but without seeing some architectural drawings or something more concrete, it's hard to make the decision.
Right.
And I completely agree with that sentiment, although I I recognize the catch-22 loop that we're in here. The chances are fairly high that the drawings, the better detailed drawings are going to be necessary for the HOA action. And the HOA is probably looking to us to say, is the 5 foot a material difference? So we're in kind of a circular loop here.
Well, I am in agreement with wanting to see some additional information. So procedurally then, we're looking at getting some plans. The appellant is looking for some indication as to whether going through the expense of contractor, architectural drawings and whatnot is, I mean, trying to get out of this loop that Mr. Hayes is talking about. Can we give the appellant some indication? Do we have to close the public hearing? And Rick, I'm kind of deferring to you too.
I don't think we can
procedure.
give too much of an indication. He can kind of read our, but I don't think we can do anything formally to say I think we probably wouldn't be able to say we'll do it as long as we like the plans. I mean, we could do it that way, but I wouldn't be comfortable doing it that way. We could say
Right.
we like it as long as staff likes the plans or something like that, but I think that's probably putting a little too much on staff in this case. I would lean towards leaving the public hearing open only because if the plans come back and we have questions about them, we would, love
We have
the
that
opportunity just to
opportunity.
ask the applicant. I mean, we don't usually get into the fine print of the plans. The homeowners association can get into that, but I do think we need to have a general feel of what it's going to look like. It's a corner lot, and the reason that there are the double setbacks on a corner lot is because it is so visual, and I'm sure that what they're going to plan is going to be very much in keeping with the neighborhood, but I just think I have a duty to see what those plans are.
Well, case in point, and I understand what you're saying, is that roof over the existing garage is so steep that once you add on to it, you can't keep that same slope. There's going to be some transition to a more shallower, good, great English. Brian would like that. A shallower pitch to it, and that's going to affect how the house looks.
Yeah,
Please, would you come back up to the podium?
It's good we kept the public meeting open.
I wasn't aware that I had to have architectural drawings for this. I thought this was more about the footprint of where the garage would be and the setback. I didn't realize it was about, what this is going to look like. One thing I do want to mention is the neighborhood that we're in. We just bought this house in September. We lived in Anderson for 25 years. This is our third home here. I was sort of shocked to find out that not only is there, when we bought the home, I read every page of the 65 pages of restrictive covenants, only to find out there's another 100 more that are filed at the courthouse. So I've been through all of those. So where I'm going with this is the hoop I have to jump through with the HOA is much more extreme than what we're talking about here. I mean, they're not going to let anything slide in terms of how this is going to look, how it has to blend into the neighborhood, how it has to abide by all of those restrictive covenants. So I don't think there's a big worry on your part that this is not going to look like the rest of the neighborhood. First of all, that's not the way I do things, but second of all, I'm very aware of how stringent this next step is going to be, and not to take any of the importance away from any of you individuals, but that is a big concern of mine. I could go through all of this and have the appeal approved and then completely get shot down by the HOA. I mean, that is certainly in the realm of possibilities. So for me to get through that next step.
If we were to approve this, you're still going to have to do the plans to go to the HOA.
Absolutely.
And I think what we're saying is that we feel our statutory duty is to take a look at this from, the the broader picture of the township and its land use plans and all those kinds of things, and we'd be far more comfortable making that decision. The HOA will make whatever decisions they make, and I don't have any doubt they'll apply a more strenuous standard to you. But that we have as much information as we can have to make that decision. And yeah, so if you're going to have to do it for them, I think it would, I can't speak for everybody, but it probably enhances your chance of having this approved if we have a better set of plans. I think I, for one, might be a little uncomfortable approving them without a better set of plans.
But then that kind of puts me into a catch-22, because if I go through the whole process of spending the money for the plans and all that, I could still have this not go through here. But I understand what you're saying, but this was the process I was trying to go through, to take it a step at a time and see how I do with it.
It could be a very easy matter of sitting down with somebody, a good architect or whatnot, and coming up with some sketches of what this thing is going to look like from the outside. Okay, do you have to go through plans? I'm not so sure, but I think as what Mr. Oberschmidt is saying, is that we've got a due diligence that we need to do. When we understand your HOA, but we have ours. So if there was some elevations, perspective sketch, isometric, or something of what the volume would look like, how do the roofs meet, and so on, would be valuable information for us.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't feel we need construction drawings.
You don't need, we don't need construction drawings, but we need some drawing that says that this is what your intentions are, and that when we're then, looking at what your appeal is, we're looking at it holistically.
And procedurally, what does that look like? I mean, what is the process? Do I need to reapply then,
No, because the public...
You would submit drawings to me as soon as you have them prior to next month's meeting, and then I would route them to everyone, and we'd return it next.
Yeah.
So I would be back here in a month if I can get that together fast enough.
And I think the request would be to give you some better definition so that you don't feel like you're doing too much. And I think maybe if the board concurs or supplements it, it's an elevation drawing. And if you're doing it, it's at least a rough landscape plan. You've verbally articulated that you're going to generally move stuff that's up against the house, up against the garage, but if they're doing the elevation, they can do an elevation drawing, and then the site plan that shows the driveway as expanded in the general location of the new landscaping. I mean, I don't think we need to know it's, 4 of this and 6 of this, but I think that's what I would be comfortable with, those items: elevation, a site plan, and a site plan generally, including where the landscaping is going to be.
Right. I think what Mr. Oberschmidt is saying is anything that's on the exterior. You're going to be doing either something on the inside or whatnot, anything that's showing the volume of it, plans, landscaping, information about what the outside is going to look like.
Okay.
Both, so we're looking at where you're adding pavement, materials.
Lighting? Do you care about lighting? Not really?
I don't, not in this case. I
Right.
don't.
Probably would be something similar to.
Yeah, material indication and so on.
I think on like material indication, it can be, if it's going to be brick compatible with the existing brick, that's fine. It can be generic like that, but we need a little bit to get a handle on it.
Perhaps a few words, Mr. Chairman, of the purpose of this board and what we do would help the applicant. In that, I'll give you some more prompting on what I have in mind here, is that we really...
Go ahead.
You want me to do it, and then you adjust it? Our sole purpose of existence is to help folks like you that are burdened by administrative details in our zoning code. And so we make judgment calls as to what is reasonable and helpful for a neighborhood, including all of the remaining property owners. So it's customary for us, this is not a unique request of Mr. Oberschmidt's, it's customary for us to look at these kinds of things and making those judgment calls. It's also customary for us to ask, as we did in the earlier testimony, of what's the HOA feel, because that's a great help for us to judge what's the neighborhood feel about it. Not just the emails, but the HOA itself. Yeah, I think you're going to need the drawings, the rough drawings for the HOA process. It'd be helpful for us to know that the HOA is generally okay. And that's generally the sequence of things.
So you want this to be approved by the HOA before you'll decide on this?
I don't think I personally don't see that as a requirement.
That's not a requirement,
Okay.
no.
It's not a requirement of our,
Okay.
But it helps it greatly helps our exception process of
Right.
if the HOA is comfortable, and we have had many cases where the HOA is already comfortable and in fact sometimes gives actual testimony that way. Makes our job much easier.
Right.
Or maybe
Appreciate
if we
that.
know that they're not opposed at this point.
Right, that's what I think. There isn't any major opposition that you know of now, as I was thinking too.
I'm sorry, what were you
Because
saying?
they don't know exactly if they're going to approve it yet or not, but if they're okay, if they're comfortable with the idea at this point, then that would help us too.
Yes.
No major opposition that you know of.
No, we've been going back and forth with emails. I'm just trying to find what their focus is and trying to work with what their focus is and try to make this as easy a path as possible. So I was in communication with them before we actually signed the papers on the house to find out if this was even the realm of possibilities, and it's been going back and forth and they've been very responsive to my requests and helped me kind of walk my way through all of this. But it was under their recommendation that I come here first, where originally it was going to go through the HOA and then through here, and they thought, well, maybe procedurally that doesn't make sense. So let's go with the zoning board first, see what the outcome of that is, and then move on to the...
I'm sure that the 65-page declaration has a lot more restrictions than the 7 criteria that we look at, but
It's some entertaining reading.
I don't really think we'll probably get into the color of the gutters, but...
Do you have enough information as to what you need to provide us?
I think so.
Any other requirements
send
from
me
the...
that
I think,
email with the list?
if they have any other questions, Allison can certainly
Right.
knows us well enough to know what we're thinking.
Right. And then...
I do well with the list. If you tell me exactly what you want, I'll have it.
Okay. And then making sure that we get it in time. And then we'll review it at next month's meeting.
So do I need to be here? Is it understood that I will be here for that meeting, or?
I would recommend it.
Oh, no, I'm just wondering what the procedure is. I'll do whatever I need to do.
Well, I mean, now that we have additional information, we may have questions.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, I would recommend that you come back next month.
Okay.
We'll already have the documents, the drawings, and then we'll be able to, because we'll leave this public hearing open, that we'll be able to have the chance to have more dialogue.
Okay.
Otherwise, if we close it...
And just one mechanical question,
May 1st, okay.
Allison, he'll be first on the agenda, right?
Yep.
Good. So if new stuff comes in, you don't have to sit through it.
Right.
Gotcha, okay.
Right. Okay. Anything else?
We need to formally move that the public hearing remain open.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. I move that we leave open the public hearing in case 424 BZA so that the applicant has the opportunity to provide the requested information, including a site plan elevation and very rough landscape drawing, and that the applicant have an opportunity to communicate with staff about those pieces of information.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to keep the public hearing open. Is there any other discussion? Betty, please call the roll.
Mr. Beckhoff?
Aye. So we are open and look forward to getting some information from you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Send you an email in the morning.
Okay, great.
Well, I guess, is there any other additional business that needs to come in front of the board? Then a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
I'll second.
Second.